used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now today we will take a look at Kon-El Superboy. Now once again, this is a certain version of this character. We will get into it. We will do some head swaps. We will add some paint detail. And we will also add a cool accessory. Now he does look pretty powerful in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now, of course, these are not really needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. He also comes with his data file card. On the front, you do have some comic source material. And now, of course, this is where we get into that this is not representative of the figure that we actually received. This is more of a Death of Superman version. But, of course, we know that McFarlane still has time and will probably end up releasing a different version that is more accurate to this artwork. Now, on the back, you do have some information. Now, there are tons of different versions of Superboy. You could go throughout the history of DC Comics. There's different versions. Now, personally, my favorite is actually Connor Kent. Just love that version of Superboy. Maybe it's because he dresses like me, or he's just one of the versions that has more of a sort of like take no crap, attitude. While this version is more of I'd have to say like not so serious version of Superboy. Although he still is powerful, but he just has a different attitude than Connor Kent. But we'll add this to the collection. Now, he did not come with any accessories. I would just rather prefer if they at least would have given us one of each of the alternate hands, so you could have them fisted or with the two open hands. But it is what it is. It is a $20 figure, so I am happy to actually have this one and take a look at him. But of course, you know me, I always have to go that extra little step, and I did go ahead and get him an accessory, which is going to be these little shades. Now, if you want to know where I got these, I did get them from a weird place that you'd never think of. Hit me up in the comments. I will tell you where I got these little black shades. But we'll go ahead and take a look at these, in a bit. But right now, let's go ahead and take a closer look at the figure. Now, first impressions, there is tons of added detail on this figure. We do know that it does use the John Kent body, as most of the figures that I've reviewed recently do. But there is tons of added parts that actually separate him and, make him his own figure. So we'll take a look at those, but there is different parts that cover up the old sculpt, and they give him his own signature costume. And of course, the jacket is a big part of that. But right off the bat, I do like the way he looks, just by, first glances. Love me some Superboy action. Really cool. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at the head sculpt. Now, this is a certain version of this character, not necessarily the same haircut or style of the Death of Superman version. The hair, it's a little bit like satin finish, doesn't really have any highlights at all. So we might end up touching that up to give it some pizzazz. But the face sculpt is really good. Now, I did find an image where they talk about how he has a little bit of scruff. He's getting that sort of that 5 o'clock shadow look. So I did find that rather interesting. But it is a square-jawed Superboy look, so I'm really happy with it. McFarlane, of course, will always use certain things to make a different version of the same character. But the Superboy look is there. So all in all, it looks good. Take a look at the articulation. He does look down really well. He also looks up really well. Now, this is without any modding, and he could pretty much look up. So if you were to mod him, you could actually get him to look straight up, which would actually help in flight poses or action poses. So you can always do that. You do have right to left. And then you can tilt his head for some character. I get like a devil may care kind of feel from this guy. Looks good. Going down, you do have this emblem, the Superman shield underneath, but I do not know why they tacked down the jacket. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. They should have made it where you could pop off the arms and then just pop off the jacket. I mean, you could take it off, but of course it's going to have parts underneath where it's glued on. That's just, you shouldn't do that to help customizers. And even me, I probably would have made a pretty cool alternate version of this figure if they would have just allowed us to remove that jacket. And then you go down to this cool belt with studs and a big buckle. Get that 90s kind of feel with those silver studs around the belt. So let's take a look at the waist articulation. You do have side to side at the waist. You do have that full tilt-a-whirl at the waist, which gives you a lot of range. You have a lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel. You could twist them, get them in some cool poses. Now, as far as crunch goes, this crunch is, I recently reviewed Impulse, and he had a pretty acceptable crunch, but this one goes back to where it's not going to go down. It's just not going to touch, the upper part is not going to touch the belt. But it does get a slight crunch, so you could use that. And of course, you could tilt him back. And like I said, put his head up, get him in some flight poses. Pretty awesome. Let's take a look at the shoulder joint. Now, there is no regular McFarlane bushing and socket joint in here. There is just the jacket that actually grips around the shoulder and covers any gaps. But you still get a lot of good range and movement. You still get the up and down and front to back. Bicep swivel. Double jointed elbows look pretty nice. And then moving down from the shoulders, you got spikes on the shoulders, which add a little bit of attitude. You got a nice S symbol on the left shoulder. Now, I did notice in a lot of the images that that S is on the right shoulder. Not sure if you could pop the shoulders out and like switch that around. You might be able to. But for me, it's not a big deal. It's just one of those little details that a regular consumer is not going to notice, that the S is on the wrong shoulder. But moving down, you got the sleeve of the jacket, which looks really nice in like a almost glossy satin black finish. And down into the fist hand with gloves. And of course you have wrist articulation. On the other side, you do have the same thing, but you go down into that weird gesture hand, like gesturing, that kind of, a lot of the figures that use this body book actually have these hands. I did forget something when I was talking about Nightwing last time. They do have 3 actual hands that they use, which is fist, the gesturing hand, and also the karate chopping running hands, which I'm not a big fan of, but I mean, it's nice to have. But they do not have gripping hands, which I wish they did. Get him in a T-pose pretty simply. Can put his arms above his head, even though he has the jacket. It does bend and flex to let you raise up the arms. Moving down, let's go ahead and look at the thighs. Once again, he does have pretty good thigh swivel. Now, if you were to heat this up in between here and move it around and loosen it up, you'll actually get a lot more swivel at the hip. And what this allows is for you to move the boot from side to side without having a hideous, disgusting thigh cut. You still get some human hip movement out of it. Can kick up, respectively, but you can kick back really high. Now, don't be afraid to push the trunks because they are made of rubber. That is why they are designed this way, so you could get that added range in the legs and the hips. And when you put them back, they actually go back to their original shape. Cock out his knee. He does have that sweet McFarlane hip swivel. Double jointed knees. Straighten them out. You have up and down at the ankle, right to left, rocker, and toe articulation. Before we go, let's go ahead and take a look at this whole lower body. As I said before, they did add some cool details to separate it from the other figures that use this buck. Got some cool 90s pouch, some little straps around it, got some knee pads. Now I did notice in the images that the knee pads are actually like stitched onto the costume. So you actually have these little like bumps around it. So they're actually supposed to be yellow to represent the thread that stitches on the knee pads. I might paint those and show you guys what it looks like. Moving down to these cool combat boots. Looks like the boots I usually wear, like high-tech style boots. And they do have sculpted in laces. And those beautifully sculpted out ankle ball joints, they give you movement, but it looks so clean and gives an awesome silhouette from the calf to the foot. Pretty nice. Let's take a look at him from the bottom. No tread, but he does have some identifying marks. Moving up the back, pretty plain sculpt work, but they do have these added details of straps, one across his butt, and then moving up. You could look up a little bit, but you just have those studs. Don't want to really push the jacket too much. And then let's take a look at this awesome jacket. Just look at that. That's pretty much money right there. This really makes this $20 figure worth it. The way that shine and gloss and the cleanness of just that emblem on the back of the jacket just makes it all really well worth it. All in all, an awesome looking figure. He looks good. I'm really happy to have him. I actually have 2 more of him on the way. And of course, one will be for my unopened DC Multiverse collection. And one will be to do some custom work and to display him with his shades. Now, before we get into the shades, let's talk about the little paint work that I did. Now, first things first, I did want to give his hair a little bit more life. It just looks so dull and without body. So I did add some blue highlights, which you could see here. And that just gives it a little bit more pop. Doesn't look so drab with just that one tone of black. And I added a little bit of flat black at the bottom just to give it like shine, and then moving down into a more flat matte tone. But it looks really good. Then I also did the stitching on the S. Now in the images you'll see that around the S on his shoulder, it's actually little yellow stitching that stitches it onto the jacket. So I did add those myself. And then of course the knee pads have the stitching around to make it look like the knee pads are actually stitched onto the costume. Looks pretty nice. It's kind of tedious when I do these little paint jobs, especially eyes. That's like one thing that really gets to me, but I am good at it, so that's why I usually do it and try and show you guys in the video. Now once we get that, you know what, let's go ahead and bring out some other figures first, because I did do some head swaps. Now first let's bring out Nightwing, just to see how he looks next to this Kon-El figure. I mean, just the way they look next to each other. Look really good. I love how he looks now with the Screama sticks and the grasping hands. So really happy with the way that Nightwing came out. Let's go ahead and bring out John Kent, but this is the alternate version, the one where I painted the eyes. The other version is actually with the heat vision eyes. Now I did want to swap out the heads and take a look at it. So first I put this head with the regular eyes on this Kon-El Superman body. And actually the hairstyle of this John Kent looks really good with the suit, with the costume of this one. I don't know what it is, but it has more of like a rocker style, and he has that cool curl, and it just looks really good. But at the same time, I wanted to try the Heat Vision head, and that one looks even better. Like in my eyes, it just gives him some, like attitude and gruff, and gives him a slight, tough aura. It just looks really good. Now, then I did put this head, the Kon-El head, on this John Kent body just to see, it looks pretty good. It looks different. The hairstyle's kind of off on it, but it's just another look that you could have. And then now finally I did bring out the shades. Now first we did put the shades onto this Kon-El Superboy, and they actually fit really nicely. They fit perfectly because the little clips actually go right above his ears and just make him look really cool. Love the way it looks. I did move him around, get different angles of it, the way it looks. Maybe he's like peeking down with his hand, moving the glasses down. Or I did try the glasses on with the other heads, the regular John Kent head with the Heat Vision, and then also this alternate just eye. All in all, you could mix it up. You could decide what look is best for you and just have fun with it, because in the end, most of the figures have interchangeable parts, and when you're done, you could always put it back to its original released form. Now, of course, he looks good in flying poses, and he looks good up on the shelf. I am really happy to have this guy in the collection. Really fun taking a look at him and doing some quick little details. You guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.